All right, let's just go into this Facebook situation. All right. So
Yeah.
depending on when you hear this, what date was that? Let me get my facts right. It was a Monday. So it was October 4th, where everybody didn't know what to do with their life. Okay. Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, Messenger all went down for like 8 hours. I will say this. I never realized how weird it was to like check it as much as I did, and it didn't work. I was like, "Oh, I have a problem. I have a problem." And
Wow.
I was trying to be like, "Oh, well, I have to, because I got to see what's happening and when it's up. That's part of me. Like I got to," but
Right.
I realized like I'm always working, and then I'm
Sneaking in there.
right. Like I was.
Well, hey, at least you're being honest with yourself. I don't think that many people are going to be honest with themselves and say, shoot, I might have a Instagram addiction low key.
Yeah, I low key do. I low key do. But yeah, it was like back to back too. It was like, oh, it's down. 2 seconds later, I picked it up like, oh, let me check my other account. Like my other account's gonna make any
As
difference.
if that's going to magically work,
yeah,
right?
it was bad. But I didn't even care about Facebook. That's the bad part about it. Like they were like, oh, Facebook's down too. I was like, I don't care about that. What about Instagram? But needless to say, there's a lot of rumors about why it happened. It got hacked. The craziest thing. Ooh, this is what I did want to say. This is where tech goes wrong. So I don't know if you saw the tweet where it was like, I think it was done by TechCrunch, where it's saying, since Facebook is down, Facebook employees can't get in because their badges won't work. I was like,
oh, wow.
oh, this is when tech goes
So they can't
all
get
wrong.
into the building?
They couldn't get in, supposedly.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
that was a tweet. And I was like, oh, wow. Social media controls everything. Wow, that was weird. But so one of the speculations is that there was this 60 Minutes that came out about this Facebook whistleblower, right? I had no clue what it was. Clearly, it was a former Facebook employee spilling the beans. Now, there was a part of it that I wanted to talk about in the context of when you want to stay relevant, what route do you go? So let me show the clip, and audio people, you hear it, so you know what I'm talking about.
And one of the consequences of how Facebook is picking out that content today is that it is optimizing for content that gets engagement or reaction. But its own research is showing that content that is hateful, that is divisive, that is polarizing, it's easier to inspire people to anger than it is to other emotions.
Misinformation, angry content is enticing to people and keeps them on the platform.
Yes. Facebook has realized that if they change the algorithm to be safer, people will spend less time on the site, they'll click on less ads, they'll make less money.
Wow.
So, Moose, how do you feel about that clip, hearing that, Facebook is doing it, is showing you all the wrong stuff and things that could possibly get you mad, right? And weird part, I don't think I experienced that on Facebook. I don't know if you experienced that, but I don't like the way they have this whole narrative of false news and misinformation and all these bad things. I don't see that on Facebook. Granted, I'm not all the way every day on Facebook, except for this week lately. But what do you think about it?
Man, I think it's so interesting, right? So I'm almost in the middle of this, right? Because from one side of it, I understand people's concerns with their privacy and their information and all that stuff. And look, I'm not for complete invasion of privacy, but the fact that they make the experience easier, right, by being able to show you more relevant things, I think that's a positive, right? Especially like they say, well, if we didn't use the platform or make the platform the way it is, when you search for something specific, there's no way that you would get exactly what you're looking for. Like, I don't know who I saw breaking this down, but they were saying, imagine you were looking for how to best season steak. And then you found videos coming up on the first page about the best toothbrushes and maybe toothpaste. That would be pretty frustrating for you as a user. Right. So they were saying that they almost come hand in hand, this concept of being able to utilize your information. It's because it makes their system better. Now, the area where I have to draw the line, because I think it becomes more an issue because of culture and company values, is this idea of you knowing that this is how it contributes to maybe violence, hatred, things of that nature, and you are choosing not to put a limit on that because you want more people to spend time on the platform, because again, that's how it translates to more dollars in your favor based on the advertising and marketing that you do with other companies or businesses or offerings that you bring to the marketplace. So that's for me where I draw the line, Nick's. Like, if we're saying, hey, and especially because Zuckerberg has made multiple appearances, you know, in government or in whatever court saying, hey, you know, this is what we stand on. We're very XYZ, and this is what we believe. We want to make it all equal for people. But you're not putting the actions in place to actually live out that belief system. So that's for me where it becomes a little problematic, because it's like, dang, like, you're saying that's what your company believes in, but that's not what you're doing behind the scenes from an operational sense to actually live out those values. So it's a big hypocritical move for me that I'm like, I know, I understand how it makes things better for us as users, but when it comes to this part of it, especially if you have the opportunity to choose to limit that and you letting it go, then that lets me know that, you know, it's more your, whatever is in your favor above the well-being of the world or the people or the community or all the users on Facebook, as you claim it to be about. But that's not what it is, I see.
Yeah, it's when I think about it, I don't think I'm too shocked by the situation. Like, Facebook isn't as relevant as it used to be, right? Because you used to hear MySpace, and then that died, and then it was just all Facebook, right? And then other stuff started to pop. Twitter, Instagram, that's why they bought Instagram, TikTok, like YouTube. It's just a lot of things that Facebook may not be number one or even two anymore, right? So, but the weird thing about this is the one thing that pops in my head when I think about like anger and violence, and not to bring up this man in any kind of way, but when Donald Trump said what he said, and then there was this whole riot, right, that was all over the news. I think that was on Twitter. I think he said that on Twitter or something. And it caused this whole crazy protest that like took down the Capitol and everything. I don't see that same energy on Facebook, but we've talked about it in past episodes where just because I don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening, right?
Right.
Based off what this person said, it just seems a bit desperate. It just seems like we already know, and here where it's kind of the lesson is like, we know emotion makes people do stuff, makes people engaged. Now, sad doesn't make people want to engage too much. Happy is a good emotion that, want to spread positivity, but they choose not to go the positive route, which still has engagement. I think because they're not as on top as they used to, they can't necessarily do the positive route. Now, when people hear this, does that mean, okay, well, if it's not working anymore, do I go the negative route? Do I go making people angry and getting them to engage in that kind of way? And we've seen it where people will post like controversial posts just for engagement, even minor stuff, right? And we know that works, but that you have to look at the values of your own brand and business, and does it align with that? And just because things may not be working, or you may not be getting the same money as you used to, is it worth really taking that route of always being known for the person who stirs up the pot, always being known for the brand that says something that could be true, but we're not really sure, but it's entertaining. Like, regardless if it's true or not, that's entertaining. We're going to talk about it. So I look at it more like a lesson on what emotion are you trying to evoke for your audience, period. And like staying true to that, regardless of the waves of business and entrepreneurship. Because you could get very desperate in those low peaks. You could get very desperate when the money isn't looking like how it used to. So, I get why Facebook is doing it. I just can't agree with it. But supposedly it's working. I can't say, no, don't do it. Like, she, in that 60-minute, because I watched the whole thing, was like, she worked at Google, she worked at Pinterest, and she was like, I came to Facebook so I could work with the department to get rid of all the false information. And realizing it was never going to happen. And I'm like, there's always the villain in a crowd. There's always the person who does the opposite of what's supposed to happen. But it's so, they'll just put a sticker on it like, false information, or they'll do maybe some things that they'll take some information down but keep others up, Yeah. And it's like, as users as well, though, we get influenced very easily. And how do I say this? How we get our thoughts sometimes is based off what we always see, right? Whether it's on the news, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's in the website, whatever it is, if we continuously see something, some of us may be like, oh, true. This is how life is. This is what this is, right? But I think also as consumers, we have to be a little bit smarter. Like, we have to look at it on, like, what is this source? And should we believe it based off what we continuously see on this platform? And do we see the same information on other platforms?
Yeah, I will say, and I want to ask you a question here in just a moment, but I do think that part of it is our fault, right? Like, I don't think that everything that happens in this world is a result of the big bad wolf, the big company, the big corporations, the bad CEOs. Like, you played into the narrative, right? Like, yes. And again, you could say, well, they have these psychological tactics to know that we're going to enjoy negativity and drama more than positive light.
Yeah.
But you helped them fund it. Like, you helped them figure that out about you. You played into it. You kept pushing that agenda. And guess what? It gave them the green light to do it. And no one called them out on it. But at the same time, and this is kind of where I want to ask you, like, I understand business, right? Like, there's a part of business where it's very black and white. You remove emotion from it. I'd like to believe that, hey, at one point, you get so big that you really got to start taking into consideration the well-being of humanity, especially when you have over 2 billion people on your platform.
Yes.
Or whatever it is.
Yes.
Maybe I'm off with that number, but it's close. They got a lot. And I'm looking at Facebook as Facebook and Instagram because they own Instagram.
Yes.
Right? So I'm looking at both of them together. So I guess my question for you is, let's say you're CEO of Facebook and Instagram right now. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate that concept as a owner of, from a business standpoint? Do I keep just solely focused on growth of the platform, making sure user time is through the roof? Or at some point, do you start saying, hold up a second, like, we're actually out of pocket because of this, and that? What's the balance in your perspective? How would you run it?
For me, it's values always over money all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Which in this case may not be so beneficial and revenue generating at times, right? Because we already know, like, Facebook is, and just any platform, we know entertainment sells. We know entertainment is the most that people truly watch and engage with. Now, with that, there's a good side of entertainment and a bad side of entertainment. If there was stats that clearly people are dying, harming themselves, and those natures based off the information that they see on the platform, that's a different scenario. And I mean a good significant number, not a certain percentage, because a certain percentage could play off of anything. Like, I think sometimes we find reasons to blame somebody else besides ourselves, or besides the true reason why things happen, right? Like, random side note, when somebody, did you see the one about Geico? Did you see that?
Mm-mm. Which one's that?
Okay, so side note, but it'll go right back around. So a female sued Geico because they caught an STD in a car that was insured by Geico.
Oh, wow.
Right. So instead of suing the individual that got you the STD, you are now suing the insurance company of that the car is covered by? Weird. So I say all that because, not saying that some content that is out there could truly affect people, but I believe in certain cases, we cannot say yay or nay if Facebook is the true reason why this is happening or that is happening. They're just not helping. They're not helping the cause, right? Yeah. Same reason with the whole COVID situation. We know we can't say this event gave us COVID, right? Mm-hmm. But it may have played a factor. If I didn't have to go there, I possibly wouldn't have gotten it. Possibly. I don't know yet, right? Yeah. No, I don't have COVID. I'm not saying I have COVID, okay? That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that to say that if there is a true significant number that shows that it is negative, like what we're doing is negative, I would have to change the direction somehow, some way. If it doesn't, and there's just people, there's billions of people in the world. Like, you really got to look at it and like, okay, is it truly misinformation? Now, I'm assuming it's true because I've heard that countless of places about Facebook. countless.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well.
What?
I will say, I mean, I just think that whenever we choose to just be honest and transparent, believe it or not, the growth effect is just as impactful, right?
Yes.
Even if you can't measure it in dollars. And what I'm trying to say is, let's say the CEO was like, you know what? This is actually it's at a point where it's becoming harmful to the public and our users.
Yeah.
We have so many users that the domino effect of this is going to be problematic for just the entire world, right? When you look at events like, the takeover in the Capitol or just some of the things that happen around the world, you're influencing literally how people are living their life or what they're choosing to do or what stance they take. You got to be a little bit more careful.
Yeah.
I wish it was the approach of, let me be transparent and come out and say, hey, we're choosing to limit XYZ, which I'm sure at that point, when a platform is so big, you can't satisfy nobody. Right. If you were to come out and say, oh, we're going to limit this type of content because it's creating this type of effect, I'm sure some people are going to come out with it. Well, give me the opportunity to choose. But in my opinion, I think when you stick to the facts and say, hey, we've let it run on for a while. Here's what some of the impacts have been or negative side effects as a result of it. So because of that, now we're going to take this approach. So it's like, if you can be more transparent, you don't give ammo to a whistleblower to come out and kind of like flash your cards and be like, oh, wow, look at what they've been doing behind the scenes this whole time. So I think from a business standpoint, the way you move and operate, if you can not keep any skeletons in your closet and be more proactive about, hey, we want to make things right. We won't be perfect. We won't satisfy everyone because we're too big. Somebody's going to feel offended or not happy with the stance that we're taking. But I don't give ammo to anyone to come out and kind of do this whole 60 Minutes thing. So I'd like to kind of see the balance of it too, from a business standpoint. Like, if you're a leader in that type of position, be more transparent. Don't leave any skeletons in the closet.
That's good.